What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'll break down some very important levels to be watching for and what resistance levels are very key. But let me first mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them, and the offer ends very soon. So now I want to break down what's happening with the markets. I just want to make it very clear that right now we've seen a lot of buyers stepping in as we predicted yesterday, and we broke some key resistance levels, which led us to the next legs up for many of these different charts out there. And this is what we were talking about yesterday as a strong possibility. Now I want to break down something else that's very important, and that is how the market's kind of responding to these new resistance levels. So as a reminder, after the market closes today, we have Tesla reporting its earnings. This is going to be very important for the entire EV sector, and I can't wait to see what they end up announcing. So this is very exciting. Let me just say that when it comes to Tesla stock, premiums are very jacked up right now because implied volatility is high, and we're approaching a big event, which is completely normal. So there's going to be likely a big IV crush. Unless Tesla makes a big move, though, people could still make crazy money regardless of that. And also depends on the strategy that people are playing with. So if you're like selling covered calls, doing something else, you could still make insane money off the premiums, but that all depends on what people want to do. That's all up to you guys. I'm not going to focus as much on that in this video. So what's happening with the charts? Tesla has support currently at 144. If we lose that, there's 142 below that. And then we have resistance at 146. As you can see, Tesla's been trying to push up, came just short of filling this gap. It almost filled this gap up here in the 146s. It did touch the 146 area, hitting the 50 EMA. And at this point, now it's going to depend a lot on what happens with earnings. So I would say that the majority of the move is kind of like done for Tesla. There's not really a whole lot going on with this chart. But I want to call out that on the daily time frame, all right, notice there's a lot of these gaps on Tesla to fill. Uh, if Tesla gets a big bounce thanks to earnings, we could fill this gap to at least 155. If we go higher than that, 160 is coming, if not the mid 165 area. At the very least, is a strong possibility. Could go even higher to like 175 or so. Not going to worry as much about that, but I do think we could be pushed to the 160s if we're bullish. If we're bearish, we get a rug pull. Okay, if we get the rug pull, there's a gap to fill. Last time I checked, it's around like 123. So Tesla will easily fall to the 120s if we end up getting the rug pull. So I'm expecting like a 20-point move. Do we drop all the way down to 120, or do we end up pushing to the 160s to 170 area? It all depends on earnings. At this point, that's going to cost a much bigger move. Otherwise, Tesla's going to be stuck for the time being. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. All right. So that's it for Tesla. That's my like really quick analysis of it. Yes, it could try to push a little bit more from here, but it might just remain in this range. The main range of the day is probably in, and the real move will come once earnings are released, by the way. So I'm not expecting anything too crazy from this point on until earnings. For SPY, I told everyone that if SPY broke past 500, expect 502. And if we broke that, we could get very close to the 505 range. That's where we have this shop zone right here. So you see how the SPY was like shopping a lot for 2 days. That's where the resistance was. And that is where we ultimately saw SPY run all the way up to. So at this point, we'll just have to see how things go. SPY is still very close to this resistance. If we lose 502, we could be dipping all the way back down to 500. If that fails us, our next trend is going to be all the way down towards 498. In my personal opinion, I don't really see it dipping that hard. I think that we're still holding up very nicely, and we're seeing a lot of buyers stepping in. And if we keep pushing, if we break past the 505s, we could be going all the way up to about 507, maybe a little bit under 507. That's still a strong possibility if we continue to break out. But for now, I think that the majority of the move is done. I think that SPY might just see a lot of sideways range-bound price action within this range for the time being. It could attempt to push a little bit higher later on, but so far, I think that a lot of the momentum kind of like already happened, and momentum is kind of slowing down right now. So we have to give this a bit more time. Another nice move could come depending on earnings and factors like that. So I'll be very patient for the time being. For the QQQ, we have this 425 zone as our resistance. I did call out that level. We came just short of that. That's the level I called it if we broke 422. And to get to 422, we had to break 420. So we broke past this resistance right here. Now we're watching that zone. We have support at 422.75. If that fails us, I'll be watching 420.79. overall, we're holding up very well on the QQQ, in my opinion. I do think that there's a bit more potential for this bullish move. But for now, we're kind of like stalling a bit, so we might just kind of trade in this range before the next leg up, maybe a little bit later on. The chart is bullish, of course, but for the short term, we might see this thing kind of contract a bit, trade sideways within this range, just like that of SPY. So I'd rather just give this a little bit more time. And then for a few more, such as Nvidia, Nvidia's looking pretty good. We could try to push a little bit more later into 834, but it may not happen for another day or so. And then if we break past that, we could push even higher. I would say that for the time being, I'm going to be just watching these key levels just to see how things go. If we lose support, you're going to be watching if 820 breaks, we'll be approaching basically 809. Overall, the chart is bullish. There is potential for this to go all the way up to 830 plus, and we'll just have to see how things go from here a little bit later on. But I just think that the majority of the move is done, and we might just kind of shuffle, at least for the time being, in the 820s. We could push more later on today, maybe by tomorrow. We could push back to the 830s, but I'd rather give that a little bit more time. For Apple, it's not the strongest. It's on a slow little uptrend. We're still at the resistance at 166.75. Haven't really gone much of a break yet. So I want to give this a little bit more time just to see how things go. With that being said, for Super Micro, we're approaching resistance at 781. If we break through this, we're going to be looking for 800. We have support at 754. I do think there's potential to push a little higher, but I'm going to give this a bit more time. We might just shuffle a bit as well. Rivian's also going to make a big reaction depending on Tesla's earnings. For Coinbase, one thing that's interesting is the fact that we did end up pushing to fill this imbalance. We came just under our 240 target. I told you that if we broke past this resistance at 227, watch 232. That's the 200 EMA. If that broke, our next target is 240. We came just a little bit short of that, but it was still very, very close to the levels we had, at least mentioned. Now, as it's kind of dipping a bit, you're going to be watching the support. We have some support at 235, but stronger support is going to be at this trend line and also where our 200 EMA is at 232. And then we'll have to see what happens after that. For Amazon, we're going to be looking for 177.8 as our resistance. Then we have support currently at 177 flat. If we lose 177, I could see this dipping to 175 on Amazon. If it breaks 177.8, you're going to be looking for about 179. I think that Amazon might shuffle a bit. It's not that strong right now, so give it a little bit more time. And then last but not least, we have Meta. Meta came just short of 500. I was hoping it would reach 500. It came a little bit short of that. Now it's kind of rejecting a bit, so you're going to be watching that 492 support. If that fails, let's watch 489, followed by 486. But overall, Meta is still holding up decently, not looking too bad, and let's just hope for the best and remain optimistic nonetheless. With that being said, guys, the VIX is kind of down a little bit. We were talking about this potentially dipping as the VIX was looking bearish to me, and that is what ended up happening. We're approaching that 16 support. The 10-year Treasury yield is dipping a bit. This is contributing to why the market is pumping. There's also a gap down here to fill. So if this continues to dip, this could be bullish for the markets. And the dollar got a rejection. This is also contributing to why the market's pushing. So we're getting some good factors out there, at least for stocks. Tesla's going to be a big one to be watching for. We'll have to see how Tesla does. From a technical standpoint, just to be honest with everyone, on the 4-hour time frame, we're looking a little bit more bullish. It looks like it might try to bounce just based off technicals alone. Remember, technicals are not sufficient when it comes to earnings. Earnings could cause anything, essentially. But in this case, if I were to ignore earnings, I would say Tesla has some potential. The daily looks a little bit weak still. Not the strongest, but we'll just have to wait and see. So I'm going to be very patient with earnings and just see how things go. I know that the majority of people are expecting Tesla to crash, but just be open-minded for anything, and we'll just have to see what happens from there. So I'll give you guys another report on Tesla in a couple of hours, and then I'll also talk about earnings with you guys. So we'll just be patient for that. And with that being said, I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, guys. Thank you. Have an amazing rest of the day while you watch your different levels. Remain disciplined and do what you have to do. I'll see you guys in just a few hours. Thanks again, and peace.